pristine, it looks fresh off the shelf, that is suspicious. Like most of these items, even if they were kept in a box, are going to have some wear. So you want to factor all that into it. And you should also go through the DVDs. If you have, Star Wars films saved in high def on a video recorder, or if you have the DVDs, still frame it. I mean, I've spent a lot of time going through the Star Wars films and finding frames and trying to match items, and it's extremely helpful, and I've been able to match items by doing that. And the DVDs give you so much information about, you can really see, I've seen things that didn't match by using the DVDs, freezing every frame and looking. For example, I looked at some Jawa boots several years ago that surfaced, and I stopped and looked at, it was a lengthy thing, but looked at every Jawa's boots in A New Hope, and found that these boots didn't match a single one, and so I was able to establish it's not original. The Star Wars films, there's one for the original trilogy, there's one for the prequel trilogy. I highly recommend those books. They're great books overall, even if you don't collect props, but they're a fantastic reference. They have so many pictures of each of the props in the films. The visual dictionaries also have, and the Art of books also have a lot of shots of movie props. Some of them are shots that don't appear in the Chronicles books, so I'd also recommend supplementing that with the visual dictionaries. The storybooks in many magazines can also provide some reference, and one of the recent books that has been really a nice addition for prop collectors is the 365 Days book. That book it's a really fascinating book overall because it tells a lot of the history of making the Star Wars films, but it has many photos that we've never seen until the 30th anniversary, and I highly recommend that book as well. There are many pieces that I owned that until that book came out I really didn't have very good reference for, and so I'd recommend that. And of course, going through all the DVDs. The DVDs are probably the #1 source to match information about the movie prop. This acrylic display case. So something like these Wampa horns, it's kind of an interesting piece, but putting it in a laser cut frame gives it this wonderful context. And so what Prop Store was able to do with these original Wampa horns is put some paperwork about the Wampa, so things that came from Stuart Freeborn that showed how the Wampa was made and used for the costume, some pictures from the film and pictures from the behind-the-scenes shots of the film, and put that all together, and you take a piece like that on the right and just give it this significance like it's a museum piece. And so particularly for smaller pieces that need some context, using frames like this really adds a lot of impression to a piece. And so a few shots from Return of the Jedi where she's holding the blaster, and you still have the piece that you can still focus on, but you have that broader context. And this is another one made by Prop Store. This is the Tarkin pants that we saw earlier. What's interesting about this display is not only do you see the shots of Tarkin from the film, but you can also make these cases so you can actually still access the piece. So in this case, the frame actually opens up so you can get access to the costume piece. It's not sealed in there forever. You actually has a hinged door in the front. The Snaggletooth costume that we saw before that came from two different auction sources, the owner of this piece put it on a mannequin, put a replica Snaggletooth mask on. Actually, that might be the original, and it really creates an impressive display. If he had just the shirt hanging in a frame,